Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. And we are here with someone super famous, representative from MindMeister, which creates mind maps. Her name is Michelle Manus, and Michelle is the product marketing manager for MindMeister, which is the market-leading mind mapping software platform from Meister. Now, MindMeister enables over 20 million users to brainstorm, collaborate, and plan projects in a fun and visual way. So we will be finding out all about mind maps, why to use them, why MindMeister is different, and how specifically they're a great tool for podcasters and presenters. So Michelle, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Glad to have you. So, I mean, if I knew nothing about MindMeister, mind mapping, what would you tell me to get me on board with all this cool stuff?
Sure. So mind mapping is a fantastic visual way to essentially be more creative and productive. MindMeister is an online mind mapping solution, like you said. So basically, it helps you create visual, essentially spider maps or different things that you can brainstorm and ideate and really develop and grow ideas. It's a fantastic resource for creative people. It's a fantastic resource for educators and schools. And we really find a lot of use for it also in a collaborative space with businesses trying to build and create new and creative ideas.
Well, yeah, and it's cool because it reminds me of like doodling on a piece of paper or playing on the whiteboard and drawing circles and connecting lines. But then when you do it by hand, it's hard to change things around, right? You draw something in pen and you might have to erase it and it's messy, and maybe later on I want to pile in 10 different things. And like it took me a while to get on board with the whole mind mapping thing. Like I hated in school when teachers called it brainstorming and they said you have to have this bubble and have these things underneath it. And then I saw a lot of people like go crazy with mind maps and make a whole mess. But me personally, like I really like the idea of using mind maps to just like pile in ideas and like categorize things and then figure out the hierarchy and then throw out what didn't fit. And I end up getting to a place where I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And I think a lot of it is like, at least for me, like it frees up the pressure on the brain, because if you're writing a list or you're typing, it feels more official. But then with mind maps and with MindMeister, it's pretty, it's colorful, and it kind of, I don't know, it makes it fun. So, I mean, have you experienced something similar or seen your customers kind of just like say like, well, it's more fun, and then it like unlocks the creativity that way?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So exactly what you're saying. So you can do mind mapping with anything as long as you have a writing tool and something to write on, whether it be a whiteboard or a piece of paper. And I think a lot of people are familiar with that. I mean, I think do it innately when you're doodling a new idea. You kind of are drawing it at the center of it. So basically a mind map is the idea at the center, and then you kind of draw ideas off of it. So it's really basic. You can do it with anything. But the cool thing that I think you noted on with online mind mapping is that like you don't have the mess. So what you can really do is you can go wild and you can add all of these ideas. You can use quick keys, so it's super efficient, and you're able to kind of jot down just stream of consciousness or keywords or just different ideas. You can even doodle in MindMeister. So you're able to really kind of be really free and creative and kind of have this explosive brain dump, if you will. And then you're able to actually go in and reorganize. And so you can kind of drag and drop. You can start to structure your ideas in a way that makes sense. So, I think a lot of us are super familiar with Post-its, and you can write all of these different ideas in and stick them all up on the board. And then you come to the idea that you actually have to then transcribe all of that into something, and it takes ages, and then you, I think, lose that creative energy with it. So with MindMeister, you're able to actually do it all in one place. You're able to do the brain dump. You can do it together with people. So you can collaboratively brainstorm in MindMeister in real time. So adding ideas together, and then really start to organize it and see the connections. And I think that that's the biggest part of mind mapping. You can use it in school, but I think we see a lot of our customers are using it in a business setting when they really want to be strategic and find really unique solutions to problems. Because if you're writing something down, you don't necessarily see and visualize the connections. And with a mind map, you're able to kind of start to lump ideas together. You can then start to see maybe, idea A aligns with idea Y, and you can put them together in a really cool way that you wouldn't really be able to do if you were writing it on a piece of paper where it gets really messy and you're not able to be as mobile and dynamic as you would be in an online mapping solution.
Well, I agree completely. Like again, we're talking about how like school, I mean, at least for me, school sucked. And then one thing that sucked is like you're saying how when you have like post-it notes or index cards and you had to break out the glue stick and the scissors and the marker, and it felt like it wasted so much time. And then I guess I'm just not like artistically inclined because whenever I had to do any kind of like arts and crafts like that and present ideas, it always looked ugly and I always like
Yeah,
mess something up and I would be focused more on just how I would just kind of sloppily make something. And I'm like, well, I should be
right.
focusing more on the content. And then and the way that you describe it there, like you're reminding me that like the whole idea of like finding the connections. It's like there's what you think exists in your head, but then once you get it down on paper and then you like refine it a few iterations, then it takes on a life of its own. And like you're making me think of like there are so many like big problems in my business that sometimes I need solving that need to be broken down. And so like there was a time when I was like putting out a video every day. It's a short video, but then in order
Mm-hmm.
to do that, you have to have like kind of like a backlog. And I was like, well, geez, I need like 365 videos, and I was overwhelmed. And I was like, well, how about let's
Yeah,
like 100? And I was still overwhelmed. But then I thought, well, what if I thought of like 10 categories or ideas, and that was like one level of the mind map. And then if I thought of like level number two underneath each of those, and I thought, well, if there's like 10 buckets, and then I have 10 like sub nodes underneath those, then that's something I can chip away at and then like break down the problem like smaller and smaller. And so and like we were saying, you can kind of drag and drop and it's fun. And then and so I used that tool for like kind of tool for a while, and like I used a few, but I ran into the problem lacking what you just mentioned a few minutes ago was the collaboration, right? I would
mm-hmm.
dump a bunch of things and have to like save it and send this file over, and they don't have to edit it. And then for the longest time, and like years ago, I was looking for like a better solution than that. And there are a lot of like mind mapping tools that I really don't like. And the thing that attracted me to MindMeister a few years ago was that number one, I could like kind of set rules. Like I could say either there's like the two sides of the mind map where if I'm in a mode where I want to just like spew in any direction I could, but then if I wanted to have more like a kind of a list, but also kind of a mind map, and I wanted to just like have all the notes forced on one side, I was like, cool, that's the feature I was looking for. Plus what made MindMeister stand out was the like the collaboration thing. So I could just kind of in real time, like you said, like I could add some things, someone else could jump in. And so I honestly, I don't use MindMeister that often or as much as I should. And so I'm aware of the, like it can share on Google Drive. But so can people collaborate on like MindMeister online directly these days? Because all I was aware of was the
Yeah.
Google Drive.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go, if you go to mindmeister.com and sign up, you can start with free maps and you can test it out, and then you can actually invite people to collaborate. So we have unique share links, and you can invite them to collaborate and join the map with that. So they sign up for MindMeister, and you can in real time, you can see who's in the map, and you can actually brainstorm and collaborate together. We also have a chat feature in there, so you can be chatting away on it, as well as commenting, and you can even vote on ideas. So that's pretty cool when you're at the sort of maybe the second stage after you've done a brain dump and you're starting to organize and categorize ideas, and really you can get a quick feeling of if something's a great idea and people are really into it, or if it's something that maybe should go into the file away for later pile. So it's really cool that you can actually go in and really collaborate together. And I think that what you mentioned too, I want to hit on it also, is just being able to break things down into their component parts is like so important, especially for these massive projects or undertakings. Doing 365 videos is absolutely insane. And so like trying to figure out how to wrap your head around it. And that's what is really cool about mind mapping, because you basically are able to break it down to the component parts. Like they say, like you can't eating an elephant, you have to do it a bite at a time. You really have to break it down and that's why I think it's one of the kind of best kept secrets for creativity, because you don't realize when you start a creative project how many elements actually go into it. And when you're sort of in this free flowing state, you're able to really write everything down, and then you don't forget it either. And you can really, it's really, really dynamic in that respect.
Well, yeah, and even as you're describing that, you're making me think that like sometimes I'm in the mood to just brain dump, and then other times I'm in the mood to like organize or delete, and it's like trying to do all that at once. It just doesn't work. At least for me, like my
Right.
brain's like focused over on this side of the brain and that side of the brain, and sometimes I'm just like I just want to spend like an hour just like thinking and like kind of like relaxing, and then list all these things and have it like catch fire and be like in like the no bad ideas phase,
Mhm.
and then clean it up later. And so yeah, that's cool that I didn't know that you could like chat and you can vote and kind of like get be more productive than even you would in person. I guess that's the whole point, right? Like when people are always talking
Exactly.
about like how like video chat's been revolutionized by like the pandemic, or like with the cloud and apps, you can just click and get a lot of stuff done. It's like it saves a lot of the like the fluff and the everyday minutia. I mean, that's super cool. Like make a node, make an idea, have everyone vote on it, and then that way, like it seems like it gets the results that you'd get in the real world, but without all the extra rigmarole. And so
Yeah.
with mind maps, like at one point my mind was blown when I found out that like you can embed images and links, and it's not just about like text. And so is there a feature or like a use for MindMeister that we're all missing that's just like so cool, but like not enough people are using it?
My gosh. Yes. So I have this really interesting idea when I was thinking about podcasting and content creation and a way that you can use MindMeister. So we have what's called the public map universe. And this is a really cool space. So it's at mindmeister.com/public. And these are all these public maps that people have actually created. So they're anything and everything is on there. So people make templates, they make mind map examples, book summaries, all of these different things. And what I think would be really cool as an absolute podcast nerd, podcast fan, is that podcasters could create their show notes. So it would be this really interesting way where you can put the guest, give the bio of the guest, have the links and the relevant information that you discuss, and even do some kind of takeaways from the show. And these are actually, they rank on Google, which is really cool. So we have a lot of people that create mind maps that have really interesting niche topics, and actually are organically rising to the top on Google because they're so interesting and so like they're keyword heavy and they're content heavy and they're really really dynamic. And then these are searchable, so people can actually go in and see what you're doing, see what you're creating. And as you said, you can add links, you can add images, so you can actually link out to it, to the show. If you have it on Apple, link out to your review. And I think that would be such a cool way for people to actually, like, in a visual way, interact and share their show notes with their viewers or with their listeners.
That is a
Just an
cool idea.
idea. I don't know
I
anybody
mean,
that's doing it yet.
might as well be the first and see how it pans out. And like I'm looking at that right now at the mindmeister.com/public, and like a lot of what I'm seeing, like it reminds me of sort of like infographics, but more useful. Because like you always see infographics, and you're like, you can sometimes tell like, oh, like they used a template and it would be great if they added this or this, but you can tell they were limited by like the layers they had in there. So like this seems like an easy way to kind of like click around and get that same like infographic functionality, only like more interactive, because you can like pop nodes open and close. And so as far as that idea there with like the show notes, is there a way to embed a mind map on a web page? Like, is it possible to publish to this public thing and then like stick it on a web page somehow?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can embed the mind maps, and then they're dynamic, and you can actually, once you have it live, so it's publicly viewed, you actually can get an iframe or an embed code right within MindMeister. You can put it in your your website, and then actually it can be updated in real time. So you'd be able to update, and people could see those changes. So if you were super clever, maybe you had a live show, a live recording, and you could be in real time typing some of the key takeaways from from a guest or questions that maybe people have. So it would be kind of a cool idea. I don't know that anyone's doing it yet. If there are people that are doing it, I'd love to hear about it. But I think it would be a really fun way because obviously we're having this conversation about this very visual medium on a podcast. I understand the irony there. So kind of getting into that level of actually seeing what's being discussed is kind of an interesting idea.
Well, it is. And I mean, as you know, like podcasting is all about like taking one piece of content and turning it into all these other forms to meet people where they're at, because some people like to watch this on YouTube, or we might be listening just on like podcast audio only, or in little video clips, or I like to get the show notes made. And so this is just another way of standing out. And also, like, I like how you're mentioning here that you get those search engine benefits, those SEO benefits, because it's
Exactly.
text. And that's what we miss
Right.
out so many times on like the video, if we don't have captions, or the infographic, if it's just a big image. And so, yeah, this is like, I mean, everyone should at least try this, at least for like a couple of like iterations for what they're working on with their podcast. And like, I mean, I'll totally take a few of our podcast notes, especially this one, and turn it into mind map form, because of like, if we did an interview about mind mapping and didn't have a mind map, I mean, what the heck are we doing here, right?
We've missed an opportunity for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, and you can also then take those video clips too, and you can embed them. So, people maybe don't have enough time to watch the entire video or listen to the entire episode, and they can watch those digestible clips. And I think that, yeah, you get a lot more leverage from your content in that way. And I think it's a beautiful way to actually see what you're working with. So I look forward to seeing the mind map that you create from this.
Yeah, and see, now it has to be good if it needs to pass MindMeister's unofficial seal of approval. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's cool because I mean, you could have branching off of like sometimes I make like the quote graphics, like your photo plus something interesting you said, and I mean, you can have that on the mind map. We can have like the various social links. I mean, all kinds of cool possibilities. And so we've been talking so far about like, why people need to use mind maps, and all these crazy and useful and like experiments we could try and ways to use it. But I'm sure that there are like easy ways to get stuck. So does anything come to mind as far as like ways people like mess up or make mistakes, or kind of, I don't know, shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to mind mapping and MindMeister?
This is totally going to sound like a sales pitch, but that's the benefit of MindMeister is I think that it's a very simple and easy to use tool. So I think that with a lot of other brainstorming solutions out there, it's super complex and there's lots of different features and lots of different things that you can really get stuck and not really understand the meaning of it, or it just kind of inhibits your creativity. And I think the thing that maybe one of the difficult things that people have with mind mapping is that they don't come to the space in a free and open kind of frame of mind. So I think that, as you said, you're not necessarily super artistic in terms of being able to draw or being creative in that respect. And I think people are kind of limiting themselves when they maybe try to self-censor. And I think that that's kind of the one of the drawbacks coming into kind of a brainstorming tool or mind mapping in general, is that they don't necessarily give themselves the freedom to be kind of that yes and person, or really kind of delve deep into kind of a weird tangential idea that they have, and kind of explore and see where it goes. So I wouldn't say that the limitation is necessarily in the tool, but more so in the mindset with how somebody comes to to kind of the process of mind mapping, if that
And
makes sense.
it does. And that's been on my mind even as recently as last night. Like I noticed that over time I have an iPad that I don't use for anything but one game. And I was sitting on the couch and I thought, oh, I want to like write down some quick idea. And I had my phone and I had my iPad. And for some reason I went for my phone, and I thought, why is that? And I realized that I kind of set those limitations, those boundaries or whatever, and said like, well, the computer I'm using just for like, the work, the phone I'm using just to like, do for phone stuff. But then like the iPad I was using like just for this game. And I like felt like I didn't want to mix the two, because I didn't want to like, I don't know, like mess my brain up, right? And use like the gaming for the work, or the work for the gaming. I noticed that sometimes I do something similar with like I have like two monitors, and I use like one monitor for one kind of work and the other monitor for another kind of work, and just it makes my brain hurt or feel uncomfortable if I use the wrong thing for the wrong tool. And so when you say that about how like just like, you know, there are no bad ideas, dump it out, don't self-censor, as you say. I think that's helpful as far as just like the right kind of mindset to be as far as using this tool. And so yeah, this is something that we all need to be using. Podcasters, people who are you know, getting like ideas figured out, authors. Is there any like type of person that you think should be using mind maps more and they're not, like any sort of like profession or type of business or anything like that?
Oh gosh, probably a lot of people. So I think that, and I think one of the cool things about MindMeister that we use, like a peek behind the curtain of Meister, we use MindMeister and mind mapping for pretty much everything. So not even just brainstorming, but you know, when we go into a meeting, we do a lot of like meeting, you know, especially you know, in Corona times and being distributed and everybody working remotely, we actually do collaborative meeting agendas. So you can set a meeting agenda and people can put in the information that they have, you know, from documents or other inputs. And then when you come to a meeting, it can be a super quick alignment because people have already kind of laid the groundwork and done the work before. So you're able to have this visual living document that's your meeting agenda. And then you can augment it as you're actually in the meeting with, you know, data points or links out to relevant information. You know, if you're having, you know, a meeting about a weekly stand-up, you can actually link out to the work that you've done before in the previous week, and then do your action items for the things that are upcoming. So I actually think that it's less about the different industries that aren't using MindMeister and mind mapping specifically, but kind of breaking out the idea of mind mapping as just a brainstorming or creative tool and actually putting it into their workflow in a lot of different respects. Because I use it personally for like knowledge management. So if I'm thinking about like quarterly plans, like marketing campaigns or different ideas that we're coming up with, I actually I create a template for the different platforms and the different things that we're actually working on, and then fill it in every quarter. And then I actually can make a copy, and then that's my archive for the, you know, as my retrospective. And then the next quarter, I already have my template and setup as I can create a knowledge management map as I go. So I don't know if I have a specific industry. I would say all industries could probably benefit from using mind mapping a little bit more, but I think it's more incorporating it into kind of your daily workflow, because not everybody's a linear thinker. Not everybody, you know, does well with bulleted lists and notes and things like that. And so I would say trying mind mapping to incorporate that a little bit more maybe can help you be more creative and productive, because you're really not reinventing the wheel every single time you're making a meeting agenda or you're, you know, creating a knowledge map for your quarterly goals.
And that's huge right there. Just that idea of having your template and then cloning it for next time, because like it's so, I mean, I guess that's the whole point of mind mapping, is to just get something other than the blankness on the page, right? And if you're like,
Right.
well, I got to figure out another meeting agenda, and like and you feel like you're starting from scratch every time, and then you kind of flip it on its head, because when you're starting with a template's kind of by default incomplete, and it has some things
Right.
filled in, and so it's like, instead of being like, I can't even get started, you're like, well, I have this half-finished thing. I have to finish it, right? It's like if you have a half-finished sandwich on your plate, you have to have the rest, right? So you have your template. You
It's
need to
a
fill in
law
those
of the
little gaps.
universe.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it is a universal law of the universe. You have to finish it if it is incomplete. And I like your philosophy there about like the meeting thing, and it seems like that kind of like removes a lot of the barriers to entry, because like I don't know about you in the corporate world, but like I hated when you had to like check out a document and revise it and turn in like a minor revision of it and get approval, and all this weird just like barriers that shouldn't be there. And that's why you know, like a lot of the cloud apps are really helpful, like, Google Docs and Google Sheets, because it's so simple. It's not like the old way of doing things where there are all these added steps. And so MindMeister, it seems to me like I need to be using it more. We all need to, and we all need to be using it in these better ways, like the podcast notes. And something else that comes to mind is I used to use it a lot for webinars. When everyone else
Mm-hmm.
used PowerPoints, I would kind of like, zoom in on a part and have this one section of the mind map right there on the screen, and pop open a piece and kind of go over into that space. And it kind of made things more fun and made the brain kind of work better. And so as we're wrapping up, winding down, something that I've noticed as we've been talking is that, so I've heard of MindMeister, but then sometimes I've heard it spoken of as like Meister. So is there a whole other like family universe, or is there a bigger world in the terms of Meister, or is MindMeister and Meister the same thing?
That's a super good question. So yes, Meister is our company, and MindMeister is our flagship tool. So we also have Meister Task, which is our task management solution. So MindMeister, as we like to think of it, we create these beautiful collaborative tools to get projects done. So we have MindMeister, which is kind of the starting phase, the brainstorming, the ideation, the planning, and then Meister Task is the execution. So you can actually take your mind map and turn it into tasks into a project board. So it's a Kanban style project management tool, task management tool that actually allows you to then move your plan and your ideas into an actual tangible, actionable project board that you can then tick off to done. So Meister is really devoted to creating beautiful, easy to use, collaborative tools. And we're actually working on another tool right now. It's a little bit top secret, so I can't say too much, but essentially we're developing a fleet of really wonderful online cloud-based tools that help you get your work done in a creative and visual way.
Fantastic. Well, that is good to
Yeah.
know that there are top secret things moving forward, but even as far as what we can do now, so you can take that mind map and turn it into tasks. And man, you guys out there at MindMeister are like reimagining and changing everything that's happening, and it's super impressive. And so, what's the next step here? Like, where should people go? How do they get an account? How do they start using this amazing tool?
Yep, so it's super easy. If you go to mindmeister.com, you can go ahead and sign up for a free license, and that gets you access to really jumping in and trying out MindMeister. You're able to make and create wonderful, beautiful mind maps there. And then we also have lots of resources and tools on our blog at mindmeister.com/blog, where you can actually find lots of templates and use cases for all of the different ways that you can actually use MindMeister to be more creative and more productive.
And I always forget that that's a thing that can be done. Like if there's a tool of any kind, and I know that I should be using it more, I'm not using it enough. Like not just MindMeister, but like any kind of like platform or tool, there's usually some sort of a blog section where you're talking about the latest and greatest features, or here's some new unique way of using it. And I always forget that that's a thing, because sometimes when there's a tool I'm not using enough, I go and check the blog and I get so excited I end up using the tool anyway. So that's maybe like a little bit of a life hack, right? If you're not using
Yeah,
the tool,
exactly.
want to get excited, find the blog.
For sure. Yeah, we have, we have a fantastic content team that MindMeister is made and for mind mappers and people that are super obsessed with creativity and productivity. And so our blog is filled with like tips, tricks, and unique insights into how you can actually incorporate these awesome, beautiful tools into your workflow. So yeah, I think it's a good life hack too.
Fantastic. Well, we will see everyone on that website, mindmeister.com. Check out the blog, see what you can do, register, get an account, and start using it, playing with it, have fun with it, see where it goes. And this can be a way to unlock those ideas and work with others and get your business to where it should be going. Whether you're a podcaster, any industry, any size, you can use MindMeister. You will love it. Mindmeister.com. And thanks, Michelle, for stopping by.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate it.